delamination is when a paddle is brand new, the top layer of the paddle is supposed to stick to whatever the core material is. And so they're flush against one another.
And they use like an adhesive in between the two.
Yes.
In between the two, there's like an adhesive, almost like gel or sticky substance that's supposed to be holding these two together.
And delamination is over time, the glue or whatever is holding them together basically dissipates or moves elsewhere or deeper into the core, which creates a small gap between the surface of the paddle and the core of the paddle. That small gap then acts like a trampoline effect, where the top level of the paddle on these paddles that are in question is a carbon face. So that's a very, very soft material in and of itself, and it'll have a lot of give. So what that carbon face does is the ball will hit, it'll sink way into the paddle, hit the core, and then like slingshot back out, where it's not supposed to. It's supposed to hit the paddle and the core basically at the same time. It's supposed to hit the face and the core are supposed to be one and not have that little pocket in between. And you can hear it, right? It's a hollow sounding hit. I don't know. What is
No, that sounds accurate. I mean, I'm not an engineer. I'm not an expert. That's why we have engineer and industry experts that are the ones that are doing this, not me. But the same way. I understand it the same way. And, what's happening now is there's paddles that, there's discrepancy along how fast and how hard is the ball coming back.
Right.
And it's not so much the spin, which was Paddlegate 1.0, right? Was more of the spin, the grit.
The good old days.
Yes. Now we're talking more about power and, the velocity of the ball coming off the paddle.
Yeah. Right. But at the same time that you're trying to police all these things, you don't want to curtail innovation.
100%.
Right? Like you want the equipment to continue to get better.
It's a balancing act. You're always balancing, right?
Yeah.
And you want people to be motivated, and you want people in the sport that can, I'd like to think that we've tried to push the needle and push the limits in our own way of trying to grow a professional tour and a business. And, for me, when I see pickleball, like the more people you can get involved and care and be able to make businesses and be able to be a part of the sport as possible, win for everybody. It doesn't matter if it's another tour you're competing with, if it's another organization, if it's a paddle manufacturer, if it's someone that wants to make pickleball socks. Like the more people you can get talking about it, thinking about it, spending time on it, it's going to be good for your business. It's going to be good for my business. It's going to be good for your career. And so, you really don't want to limit that. But at the same time, we need to make sure pickleball is true to what it's always been with being able to still evolve. And it's a very tricky balancing act.
Yeah. Right.
Definitely. Yeah, it's difficult to do, and I personally I like all of the innovation, right?
Of course,
I just want a level playing field for everybody.
Yes.
Right? I don't care if the RZ we end up with is 40 or 80, but it's got to be 40 or 80 for everybody.
Yes.
Right? What you can't have is some people playing by the rules and some people not playing by the rules. And it's not an accusation of a player necessarily, but I don't think that players are all completely innocent. Like we have these limits, and I think you can pick up a paddle and you can feel, okay, this is gritty or this is really powerful. Your manufacturer tells you it's legal. Like, is there any obligation on the player to do a little due diligence on that? Is there an obligation on the player to check their manufacturer if they're playing with something that like, this feels a lot different than anything I've ever hit with? What do you guys think about that?
I mean, I think so, to some degree. And obviously a lot lies with the manufacturer, but also, there's some integrity from the players too, trying to do the best you can. And, you have a lot of these larger companies that are maybe more established, have been around a little longer, and they have done a really good job as far as making sure their stuff is legal and actually going through processes. And it's the rapid growth though, like the rapid growth of the sport. There's other companies that pop up so quick, and their R&D might not be the same, right? And they might not have the same processes behind what they're doing. And so I think that's what makes it tricky is you've got some people that, there's no way in hell they're going to put a paddle out that's illegal. They're just not. It's impossible. They're not going to allow it. And then there's other people where I don't know if it's intentional, if it's not intentional, but they're just not, they don't have the same processes as what some of these other companies have.
Yeah.
Sure. If you're a new paddle manufacturer, there's less to lose than an established brand. As a business strategy, I think it'd be foolish to not push the limits, right? Let's say you're a brand new paddle manufacturer, right? Let's say I have a 50% chance of getting caught doing something illegal, and I have a down payment of $50,000 of inventory to make all of this. My range of outcomes is I lose $50,000 or I could make $1 million, right? And so I think it's a good ROI for a paddle manufacturer to come out with something illegal right away.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to think that people wouldn't do that, but the world.
If you're looking at dollars and cents only, right? I mean, we've had this conversation about line calls. Obviously, there's reputational damage and everything, but if you're just looking at it from a monetary perspective, why not really push the limit when you're a new company with nothing to lose? When you're an established company, you have something to lose, right? You have that reputation. But I don't know.
Hot take.
It is a hot take. But if you look at the companies that Ben basically accused in his tweet, they're all those exact same companies. They're companies I'd never heard of before.
Yeah.
So
and who's sold out right now? 50% of the companies he named. Because when you're in controversy for pushing the limit in terms of technology and improving play, people are going to want to buy your paddle, especially if it hasn't been deemed illegal at this point. So if you can push the limits, get people talking, it's going to benefit you from a sales perspective. I just ordered the Carbon Power 2 or whatever that is, like right before I came here, because I was like, it's going to be sold out. And Legacy is like backed up on orders, and they're the ones who are kind of under the microscope right now. Maybe not from the organizations, but everybody, all the conjecture.
And I don't know if it's because it's like they're flying off the shelf, but it's also they probably are smaller companies. They've got less capital. They've got smaller runs.
That's true.
If we're actually looking at volume, I'm sure Selkirk is selling far more paddles.
For sure.
And Onyx and Engage. But yes, there's growth in their company that they obviously weren't forecasting or couldn't inventory properly, because people are talking about it.
Yeah.
Are there any other brands that are currently like under a microscope as pertains to legality?
I mean, every company right now, we want to make sure everyone's playing within the rules. There's not a certain 3 or 4 people where we're like, hey, we got to really check over there. I think it's really trying to understand what we have. And again, like with this Carbon and the Austin Open this weekend, we only know what we know. And when we're told that there's a paddle that, has a discrepancy, we have to take action. We can't have knowledge of something and not do something about it. So I think a lot of that's going to lie on USA Pickleball. But it's a really an important thing that we make sure everybody's playing on the same rules.